About you guys, I need to take a moment. So I've shared this with y'all before, but when you do close to 50 talks a year, you look for inspiration in just about anything. Nature and books and movies and conversations, plagiarizing. I plagiarize people all over the place. Stuff on Facebook, random conversations, you name it, I've probably done a talk about it. And if you have been in one of those random conversations and I'll say, can I use that for a talk? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So my style of teaching is we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I put a lot of effort or a lot of influence on that human experience because my talks are usually about real life. They're about everyday situations. Because from my point of view, even as human as our experience can be, we can always find a spiritual way of looking at it. And because I like to find humor in most things, it's a lot easier to laugh at our human foibles than it is our spiritual perfection. Would you agree? Yeah. But the beauty is when we find that humor in those human foibles, and then we understand that spiritually we're perfect, and we put them together, it doesn't get any better than that. You agree? Yeah. So I want to share this with you with Snoopy. Right? Right? So this leads me to the title of my talk, which is a little unusual. This is my talk title. Doesn't sound very spiritual, does it? Especially for us metaphysicians, because we are told to turn away from the pain, turn away from the condition, and to affirm its opposite. I remember a funny joke going around a few years ago talking about the religious scientists who went to hell and kept affirming, this is not hell and I'm not hot. This is not hell and I'm not hot. But I'm here to tell you that sometimes it feels like we're in hell, and it's pretty darn hot. And this is kind of the point of my lesson. Even when that happens, it's okay. It's still good, because it's still God. In fact, this is hard to believe, but sometimes our ow experiences are actually wonderful when we learn to see them differently. So let me tell you where this came from. I was at the Circle of Love retreat earlier this month, and one of the presenters said something that just blew my mind. And it's something along the lines of this. Ow is part of growth. Ow is part of growth. Hit me right between the eyes, because for most of us, our greatest growth has come as a result of kind of painful experiences. Anybody else? Anybody? Wait, maybe it would be easier to say, anybody not relate to that? When we're going through that experience, it doesn't feel at all like a growth experience. It feels like hell. And yet, when you look back at the experience in hindsight, you can see where that experience was, and whatever it was there for our spiritual growth. That we needed to go through it, or should I say, grow through it, in order to be who we are today. For instance, I remember years ago, it was right after I'd gotten sober. So we're talking, I got sober in '86, so this was about 1988, and I had found this teaching. And I had discovered that being able to use what I was learning here was really changing my life. And I made a declaration to the universe. You know, I'm not at all dramatic. I made a declaration to the universe that I wanted to be a minister. And my life fell apart. I mean, fell apart. My relationship broke up. I lost my job. I was broke. It was a really dark period in my life. And I was already in the teaching. I was already learning some stuff. But when I look back at it, when I made that strong declaration, and I had started changing my life at depth, that I said, I want to be a minister of religious science. I want to teach people what I'm learning. I want to teach people how to use their word in a positive way and how they can realize their spiritual perfection. I want to do this. I'm committed. I got the calling. And the universe said, great, yay! But you can't teach what you don't know. And you're not going to be able to do this with that relationship that you're in and with that job that you're in. They aren't healthy and they are no longer serving you. And like that, they were gone. The man left, the job left, all that stuff. So part of my growth was to go through those losses, kicking and screaming, and then understand that the experience was part of my soul's evolution. It was part of my journey to understanding. It was my spiritual path. And going through it helped me to build my spiritual muscles that I needed to get through everything and that I rely on still today. A colleague of mine, her name is Reverend Sally Robinson, she is in the Phoenix area. She posted this on Facebook, and I'm going to actually share it all with you because I thought it was quite beautiful. She wrote, life has a beautiful way of burning off anything that is not needed, even if it has served us well before. There is no waste in the universe. All things, all people, all experiences, even the painful ones, are there to melt us into the one. For it is in the melting that we see that many things in our lives are distractions from our true self and our true work in the world. There are seeds that lie dormant in the desert soil until a fire bursts open their pods. The intense heat of the fire activates their life force, and from this, the most beautiful flowers come into being. In other words, ow is part of growth. So you might be thinking to yourself, this is not fair. By golly, I'm a nice person and I don't want to have painful experiences in order to be spiritual. I want everything to be lollipops and rainbows. Me too! And for most of us, that hasn't how life works. I don't know too many enlightened beings who haven't had some sort of an ow experience in their life. It's part of what hones them and makes them spiritually strong. Take, for instance, the Dalai Lama. You know, when the Dalai Lama was only 2 years old, he was identified as the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama who had passed, right? And he was taken to the monastery and he was raised in an environment of love and acceptance and education and spiritual truth, a beautiful upbringing. And yet, he has had to deal with the fact that his beloved country has basically been being held hostage by a hostile foreign government for years. He's a controversial figure, which is just crazy. I went to the Parliament of World Religions in 2009 down in Melbourne, Australia, and you know, every time you would go in, you'd have to like open your purse to go into the Parliament. When the Dalai Lama was there, security was tripled. It was tripled the day that he was there. Think about that irony. This is a man of peace. He's the greatest living example of spiritual understanding and enlightenment, and security has to be tripled wherever he's speaking. So even for somebody as far advanced, as spiritually enlightened as the Dalai Lama is, there has been in his spiritual growth. But rather than seeing it as something that we're afraid of or something that we want to be avoiding, we can recognize it for what it really is. Part of our life's curriculum as we are advancing in spiritual understanding. Is this making sense? Yeah. Let me share with you what Ernest Holmes said. He said, "We are convinced that under divine law, all things are possible if we only believe and work in conformity with the principles of that law. Such a faith does not spring full-orbed into being, but grows by knowledge and experience. No matter what the outside appearance, we must cling steadfastly to the knowledge that God is good and God is all, and underneath and above and around about." We want this spiritual understanding, but we have to understand that we need to grow into it. Another analogy that works for me when I'm thinking about this, and I'm feeling sorry for myself because I'm having an ow experience, is when we decide to take on a new exercise program. Let's just think about that. Everyone has done this. Every person in this room has done this. So you start this new exercise program, and it's been a little while since you worked out, or you're kind of you're just upping your game, right? And chances are you end up being sore, right? And then when that happens, oftentimes, okay, let me say this, when it happens to me, maybe it doesn't happen for you, but when it happens for me, I quit when it hurts because it hurts. But if we stick with it, and we understand that it is a means to an end, we find that after a period of time, we're stronger than we were before. So by working through the discomfort, by not giving into it, we have built up our muscles. And the same thing is true for spiritual growth. What happens a lot of times is that we start spiritual study, or we start to learn things, or maybe we're at a particular place and we want to take it to the next level, right? And we can feel really challenged when we do that. Oftentimes, things that used to work in our life stop working. The tried and true methods that have always worked are not so tried and true anymore. The old paradigms don't fit anymore. I never knew what the word paradigm meant. Now I understand. It's like a belief system. It's like how we view the world. And when we start to grow spiritually, how we view the world changes. We take on this new view, even a slight shift. The old way tries to hold on for dear life. And we get all this discomfort and these challenges and these potential ow moments. Old-time metaphysicians used to call it chemicalization. Quite a word. Here's what Emmett Fox wrote about chemicalization. It's wonderful. He wrote, "It seems as though everything begins to go wrong at once. This may be disconcerting, but it's really a good sign. Suppose your whole world seems to rock on its foundation. Hold on steadily and let it rock. And when the rocking is over, the picture will have reassembled itself into something much dearer to your heart's desire. When a physical or mental disturbance arises after your deliberate use of right thinking, it is always a sign that your right thinking is at work clearing out the negative, so that the positive power of good can gain complete dominion in your world, or of your world." Is this making sense? Anybody relate to this at all? You bet. But But he's not the only one who wrote about it. Catherine Ponder also wrote about it. Chemicalization is huge. When we understand it, we can say, ow! Oh, I must be going through chemicalization right now. Here's what she wrote. Yeah, that's a word we use every day, isn't it? Yeah. Chemicalization means that cleansing is taking place. Something higher and better always results from this experience. When these periods come, remind yourself, this is nothing to fear. This is not evil. There is only good at work in this experience. Healing is now taking place in my world. I rest, relax, and let it. As you non-resistantly meet chemicalization in this way, very soon, brighter conditions will appear. I want us to say this affirmation. Can everybody see it? Let's say this together. This is nothing to fear. This is not evil. There is only good at work in this experience. Healing is now taking place in my world. I rest, relax, and let it. When we stick with it, whatever it is, in spite of the ow, and we continue doing our work, seeing things new, those old ways are going to fall away because they don't fit anymore. When they do fall away, it makes room for the new, the better, the higher, the lighter. I want to take us back to Reverend Sally's analogy of the seed. I want you to think about a seed that has been planted in the earth. It's right here on the left-hand side. That's a seed that's been put into the earth. The truth is, everything that is needed for that seed to become a plant or a tree is already contained in it. And as it begins to build and grow, because that is what it's designed to do, the casing surrounding the seed starts to split open. And it looks and it feels like destruction to both the seed and the seed casing. It looks and feels like everything is falling apart because it is. But eventually, the casing can't withstand the growth and it falls away and is absorbed by the earth. This is what's happening here. But then the seed continues to grow. And it becomes what it was meant to be, whether it be a tree or a flower or a vegetable. It can't help itself. All it needs, like I said, to become what it is already contained within it. It just needs to let go of the things that are no longer there for its greater good. So it is in nature, and so it is in our lives. Because we have everything we need within us to become the divine expression of God that we are, that we came here to be. Every one of us has within us that seed that is wanting to grow, that is wanting to blossom and be what it is. Amen. Thank you. But the challenge is where who that is and what that is encased in a casing of mistaken ideas and old beliefs and limitation and race consciousness and family dynamics and just plain old life. But yet, when we take on that mantle of spiritual growth and enlightenment, when we begin to wake up to who we really are, those mistaken ideas, that old way of thinking, all of those paradigms have to fall away. It's natural, it's normal. But it isn't always fun. Sometimes it hurts to let go of what doesn't serve anymore. But ow is part of growth. When we can keep our eyes, our hearts, our minds, our consciousness on the beloved, on the one, as Sally put it, on our spiritual path that is taking us there, to that understanding and to that enlightenment, the result is so worth it. I want to leave you with this ancient proverb that I think is just amazing. And you're going to talk about it at lunch today. Now that the barn has burned down, I can see the moon. Go Flames go, and so it is. Here comes